Hello again, friends. Amir here from the local home finder team. We got Jacqueline here, and also we are joined today by Carey Allen, who is an amazing local lawyer. And like we promised, we're going to bring you guys more insight on what's happening out there. And Carey is a big authority on that, so she knows a lot of what's going on in terms of the law and real estate. So we're going to pick her brain a little bit today. Carey, tell us a little bit about yourself, and tell us how long you've been doing the law. I guess, practicing law. Is that right?
The law.
Practicing how long you been doing the law? and also how what's happened recently kind of affected your business and the normal way of you doing stuff, on a professional, personal level.
Sure. So I mean, as far as about me, I was born and raised in Orangeville. So Amir obviously knows this because I actually went to high school with him, a small town as this is. And I'm now back in town practicing with the law office of Stutz, Brown and Self. I have two crazy little girls at home, so that takes up most of my time when I'm not at work. And I've been doing this for about 10 years, which is a little bit hard to stomach when I actually say it out loud. Practicing law, that is, for about 10 years, practicing in the area of real estate since 2012 is when I moved back to town.
Good. And now that obviously you've gone through a lot of changes going back and forth, and now being having this big change of having to work from home, and kind of still be able to help clients, how has that affected you? Are you still able to do things with your kids running around? I know I got a couple of my own, and they're always pretty crazy, so we have to send them out for this video.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So far, we're making it work. Definitely,
Good.
Of my clients have been accidentally introduced to my children when they start screaming in my ear when I'm on a video meeting. But for the most part, it's been working out okay. So, I mean, for me, the challenge definitely working from home is the hardest adjustment, I would say. I'm fortunate that I'm able to do it, but we actually live just outside of town. So high-speed internet and cell reception are probably the two things that I'm missing the most. So it's slowing me down in that sense, just because I don't have the technology that I'm used to having at the office. And I mean, most definitely I'm a creature of habit. So any sort of change in the routine is definitely a bit of an adjustment. And in my case, I think maybe some other people with small children are guilty of it, but certainly being at home with the kids, it's really affecting my work routine, or complete lack of it most days.
Yeah.
But trying to get in as much time as we can whenever we can find it.
Awesome. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. I know you're taking some time out from your family and your work to come and help some people out on some of the questions they have. So Jacqueline, go right ahead.
All right, so I'm just going to jump into the obvious reason why we are having this interview. Obviously, COVID-19 has made a huge impact on all of our businesses and how we do our jobs. So I'm going to just ask a general question as far as how are you finding it is affecting closings and so on, because you do specialize in real estate and some other things as well. But I've been hearing a lot of rumors from clients that properties are not closing. And if they are closing, they're not closing on time. So can you shed some light on your experience so far with that?
Sure. I mean, realistically, I can't speak for every office. So it's possible that may be true in some cases, but certainly in our case, that hasn't been the experience at all. At this stage of the game, the properties are closing. And honestly, so far so good. We definitely have some new hurdles that we're needing to jump over as far as the social distancing goes when it comes to client meetings, and when it comes to banking and getting those things done. But so far it's getting done with just a little bit more time and effort on our parts, I would say, and also on clients' parts, having to adapt to new technologies that they maybe weren't using in the past. So I think moving forward, there may be a risk that some closings could be delayed. I mean, there certainly, we're bound to at some stage run into circumstances where buyers or sellers are being required to quarantine, and the planned closing date falls during that quarantine, and you just simply can't get it done. But for the most part right now, our deals are closing, and lawyers, especially the local lawyers, are really working together to make sure that everything's running as smoothly as it can.
Awesome.
In terms of terms of meeting with people, and obviously you guys are used to having people sit in front of you and sign things and go over documents and things like that. I know you guys are allowed to do online signings too now. How is that working now? Is that easier? Is it harder?
It's a change. So it's harder just because it's not what we're used to, but it's working. I mean, we're fortunate because up until the past couple of weeks, we had been required to do all of our meetings in person, as far as identification requirements with the Law Society and also with the lenders. In any purchase, we actually had to be meeting people in person and taking their ID and physically holding on to it to know that it was real. Now the Law Society and the institutional lenders have made some exceptions to that so that we can verify ID electronically, which is great. So we're doing what we can. I mean, all of these measures are new to everybody. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can be in meeting with clients.
Just to touch on that real quick, how do you do that? If they're far away, do you do kind of what we're doing right now? You do a Zoom call or you FaceTime, or do they send you an ID? How do they do that?
Yeah, you got it. So as far as ID goes, what we're doing whenever we can is we're asking clients to send us basically take a picture of their ID fronts and backs and send them to us by email in advance. And then when I actually meet with them on a video meeting, I'm asking them to hold it up to me, hold it up to the computer so that I can see the original and know that it's the same as the copy that they've sent to us. And the Law Society right now is allowing that as valid verification of ID, just given that we can't be meeting with everybody in person.
Well, that's great. That's great that they're more lenient like that.
I
Go ahead,
am
Jack.
in the country and I'm here right now, and this is country internet for you, right? Carey,
that's why I came into the office. Mine's terrible.
Yeah, we're not allowed in our office, so I don't even have that choice.
Right. Yeah.
So I got an article yesterday, and it actually was just the timing of it was funny. It was from Livable, and it came out saying that there's a new software that they've come up with called Deeded that allows you guys to transfer land titles and a land registry and do all of that remotely. Have you guys heard of anything like this yet?
I haven't personally. I mean, the land registry stuff is all done electronically anyways. With TerraView coming into play years ago, all of the registration is done electronically. So there hasn't been really any change in the way that we're doing things as far as registration goes. So that's been a non-issue so far, which is great. I know that one of our providers has got some new software. Lawyer Done Deal has implemented a new video program similar to Zoom, frankly, so that we can be meeting with clients virtually and to provide us with a platform to do that. It also makes it easier for them to upload all of the documents that we're sending to them and that we'll be reviewing with them during those meetings. The reality is we're kind of playing it by ear, right? We're trying to be as flexible as we can. We have some clients that have access to printers and scanners and to video chat. And for those people, we're sending them the documents, asking them to print them off, sign them with us via video meeting, and then scan them back to us. For the people that don't have access to those things, we're either printing them off and leaving them for them to pick up a package at our door and then meeting them by video chat when we can. And then, I mean, there's still going to be rare circumstances where people are going to have to come in. There's some people, older clients especially, that just don't have the technology to be doing a virtual meeting. And in those cases, they're few and far between right now, but they are still happening where we're meeting with clients that are coming into the office, and we just take as much precaution as we can as far as sanitizing before they get here and after they leave, and hand washing and everything that comes along with that.
Oh boy. Okay. And I guess that kind of answers the next one too. In terms of key pickups, how are you guys handling that, picking up the key on the closing date? I know we're providing our own lock boxes for our clients, but I'm sure not everybody does that.
Yeah, ideally, we're asking the realtors to leave their lock boxes if they can. So if the realtor's in a position to just leave the lock box at the property, and then on closing, rather than exchanging the keys, the lawyers are just exchanging the code to the lock box. And that prevents any need for the client to actually come into the office. In those situations where that's not possible, then again, we're having clients come in and pick them up. Our doors are locked, so we're making appointments for the clients to come and pick them up, and sanitizing, like I said, and taking every precaution that we can to maintain our distance while they're here. But we're making sure keys are getting out. Best case scenario, in my opinion, is to have the lockbox at the property so that there's no actual physical exchange of keys.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the questions we had was, and again, I know you can only speak generally, but if somebody does have a sale that's pending, so let's say it's firm, but it hasn't closed yet, if they haven't heard from their lawyer related to new procedures and things that are happening, should they be reaching out to find out what the new procedures are, or will you guys generally contact them on your own and let them know kind of how things have changed and what they need to do moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for other offices. At our office, definitely, we're trying to make that initial contact to reach out to people to let them know. But keep in mind that generally speaking, we make that contact in the week up to closing, right? Leading up to closing, where we're actually getting in touch with people to make arrangements for meetings. So I guess the short answer to that question is, like, if in doubt, call. The reality is the lawyers are there to answer your questions. So if you have one, whether it's about the procedure that you're going to have to follow or how you may potentially be impacted by what's happening right now, I don't think there's any reason not to call. I'm sure the lawyers and the staff are prepared to answer your questions. At least I know in our office we are. But I wouldn't say that there's any real necessity to reach out and call right away, because I think, again, in speaking for our office, if you haven't heard from us, it's because there's not a problem. So hopefully that's the way things are running in other offices as well. But I think if in doubt, pick up the phone and call and just make sure that you're going to be able to sort something out that will work for everybody.
Awesome.
Very good. In terms of transfers of funds, have there been any issues? Have they been delaying closings because you haven't been able to get transfers of funds because of other offices not being able to stay open and whatnot?
In our case so far, it's actually been working reasonably well. I think the biggest problem that we have is the bank's reduced hours. And then obviously with the social distancing measures that they're taking at the bank, it's taking a significantly longer amount of time to actually go to the bank and transfer funds. So I know most offices, including our own, are trying to set up the large value wire transfer so that we can be doing more wire transfers as opposed to actually having to go physically into the banks. But for a lot of offices, that just isn't a reality yet. So I can see that it could potentially be an issue in the future. So far, we're making it work. Many branches have cut down their hours to have a closing day of 3 o'clock, which means instead of having until 5 to get a deal closed, we now have until 3 to transfer funds. So it's really just shortening our timelines during the day. But so far, at least locally, all of the lawyers have really been cognizant of the fact that the day is shortened and we're moving as quickly as we can to try to make things happen.
And do they give you,
Very good.
Like, we're seeing lineups outside of banks and stuff now because of their shortened hours and because there's only minimal branches that are open. So are you guys able to like book an appointment with a specific person at the bank, or do you have to wait in line like everyone else and just kind of hope you get in on time?
For the most part, we're waiting in line like everyone else. I mean, we have a pretty great relationship with our bank where we're able to get in touch with them in advance to let them know what we're coming for and what drafts and certified checks we're going to need. So we also have the means to deposit money that we receive without actually having to physically go to the bank. So we're trying to reduce the number of trips that we have to make as much as we possibly can. But when we are making the trips there, yeah, I mean, we're waiting in line with everybody else, and it just means sending more people to wait in line so that we're able to get in and out before the 3 o'clock deadlines start to hit.
Awesome.
Okay. Curveball question, and we can cut this one out and come back
Sure.
in. I don't think this was on the list. Say somebody's purchased a home,
Mm-hmm.
and meanwhile they've lost their job. Now the financer's backing out.
Mm-hmm.
What happens there?
The reality is, in a situation like that, you're going to be looking for a new lender. And if you can't find one, then there probably will be a delay, right? I mean, that's a reality. I have had some clients calling me to say, like, what happens if the buyer gets sick and then they can't close the deal? And truthfully, I've put to them this exact scenario where I've said, I think the more likely scenario is what happens if that person's not working and they can't get the financing to close. So I would think it all would depend on the circumstance. I mean, if they're able to get alternate funding for some reason, great. And if they're not, then it would mean either an extension of the deal the closing date to some time when they expect to be in a position that they would qualify for financing again. Or unfortunately, in some circumstances, it would mean the seller having to find a new buyer. And unfortunately, a lot of buyers are going to be in the same boat, right?
And the buyer's likely going to lose their deposit.
Yeah, the buyer would be likely to lose their deposit. And as I'm sure you probably explain to people, I mean, when you breach the contract, it's not only the loss of the deposit, but also some potential extra damages if the seller's not able to sell for the same amount that they originally sold to you, right? So it's in everybody's best interest to get the original deal closed, would be my 2 cents. And I think what you'll probably see is a lot of buyers and sellers working together to make that happen. So you'll probably see everybody agreeing to at least some delay of the closing, especially in jobs where we expect that people will be back up and running in a certain period of time. I think it may be different if the job that your buyer has is one that might be somewhat permanently or semi-permanently terminated. But if it's something that they expect to be back to work as soon as the kind of broad range layoffs are done, then you'll likely see buyers and sellers just agreeing to wait, I would think.
Okay. And obviously it all depends on the circumstance, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you taking on that question. That was nice. that I know lots of people were asking that question, and we just forgot to put it on the list.
No problem. I mean, realistically, that's probably the biggest concern I would say facing people right now as far as if deals are going to close. And the answer is, as long as the registry office is open, the lawyers are going to keep working, and we're going to do what we can to make it close. But if circumstances change where people no longer qualify for their financing, that's going to be the big deal breaker, I would think.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Jacqueline, do you have any more follow-ups?
Well, the last question is basically just a blanket question to see if there was anything that we missed. Is there anything that you think is really important for buyers and sellers out there to know about the legal side of their purchase or sale that maybe we didn't already cover?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's important for buyers and sellers to know that it is a reality that it could change the way things are done, and there could be deals that don't close. And like I said just to Amir a minute ago, likely as a result of changes in financial position and whether or not people are able to still qualify for financing. But as far as the procedure goes, I mean, my biggest message, because I'm fielding a lot of calls from buyers and sellers right now too, really would just be not to panic. I'm sure a lot of real estate lawyers would agree that the call we most dread making is a call to say to someone, listen, something's come up, your deal's not going to close. We're always the messenger that has to deliver that message when something comes up at the last minute, and I hate making that call. So all that to say that I don't want to call you for any other reason than to tell you your keys are ready or your sale proceeds are in your account. So at least speaking for myself, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that the deals are closing on time, or at least with as little delay as we possibly can.
Thank you, Carey. That was quite a lot of information, and that was a lot of questions that you answered very thoroughly. So that was awesome. Yeah, you can tell that you've done some lawyering, so that's great. But we really appreciate you taking the time again to be here and answer these questions for everybody, and to everybody else out there. If we didn't cover a subject that you're interested in, go ahead and comment or DM us if you don't feel like sharing it with everybody, and we'll try to fit it in next time when we have a chance to have the honor of having Carey here with us. And I want to thank you one more time, and Jacqueline as well, and we'll see you guys again next time.
Sounds good. Thank you.